Hi everyone, welcome to Module 2's major artwork, the Roll a Miro. I have printed out my game piece. I don't think it's necessary, you can just put it on your computer screen if you want to. But I've printed it out so you can see it. And I have my handy dandy dice. And we're going to play Roll a Miro. Now if you have viewed the information that I gave you about Joan Miro, and you have evaluated one of his artworks, then you will be more familiar with what I'm doing. So if you haven't done that, you might want to just stop and go and do that first. But Miro was a surreal artist and a surrealist, and he abstracted the images that he was drawing. And one of the main things was for the surrealists was that things be dreamlike, and then also that that they sort of access the inner child. So I thought this would be a very good game for elementary students. It's a lot of fun, and you can and it's really silly, and you're not going to be doing anything that looks like a real person. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be experimenting with line, shape, and color. So we're going to be using lines to create shapes. And then we're going to be overlapping shapes to create new shapes. And then all of the shapes that we created are going to get a different color. And this is all going to be in the context of positive and negative space and shapes. So if I were to draw something right here in the center, like let's just say a circle, that would be a positive shape. And then everything around it, the background, would be the negative shape. Now we are going to have all of the shapes on here, either they're positive or negative, either one. We're going to have them be approximately the same size. Some of them will be bigger and some of them will be smaller, but we want them to be mostly the same size. And I'll show you what that looks like. When you do this, it's going to be really important that you use a pencil. So this is one of those do as I say, not as I do. But if I were to draw this in pencil, you wouldn't be able to see it. So I'm going to demonstrate with a black marker, but you should use a pencil because you're going to need to erase. And that's because sometimes you will have drawn the shape that you want, but maybe you need to just fix it a little bit. And you'll probably see me have to fix this. I won't be able to erase, so I'm going to have to just do the best I can. All right, so we're drawing a person. This is an abstracted figure of a person-ish. And you have to use your imagination and sort of, you know, have fun with it. And so I'm going to do the very first roll, which is the body shape. And whatever I roll, that's the shape that I have to pick. Okay, so I'm going to pick, or I rolled a number 4, and that's this shape right here. And so I'm going to draw that on there. Now, because I know that this is a body, I'm going to draw it kind of big because, remember, I want to cover the entire paper. I don't want to have a whole big surrounding of my figure. So I'm going to draw this pretty big, and it is really just a triangle. That's pretty big, huh? And then I'm going to already show you what it looks like to overlap shapes. I'm going to draw this sort of half moon shape, just like an angel. And now I have drawn 2 shapes, right? But then I've also created 2 new shapes. Do you see how that works? All right, pretty simple really. But one of the things that I did that I maybe shouldn't have done is I didn't have this go off the paper. So this background shape is still intact. And that's a really big shape, and we want to break that up as well. So when I do that, I'm going to start looking at how I can have my shapes go off the paper to create new shapes so that this background shape, remember we said that the background is also a shape, that it isn't so big, and we don't have to color that much space. So now I get to add a head. And I got the head that I wanted. I rolled a 1, and it's this shape right here. Now this is going to really help me break up that space. So it's sort of like a teardrop, And I'm going to draw it pretty big. I'm going to draw it starting down here. And now look at all the shapes that I've created there. Now this shape is a little bit problematic because it's so small, and we want to try and avoid those. So if I were doing this in pencil, I would probably erase that a little bit and just make it a little bigger. But I'm not going to do that because it's not that big of a deal. I'm going to actually just color that in. And sometimes you can do that and it won't make a difference. And now I'm going to add the hair, and here's where I'm going to solve my problem. So it's kind of hair, and they're also kind of like antennae. So I can do this. Now notice that in the background I've created this shape. This is still really big. This is still really big, but I'm going to break that up when I draw my antennae. I'm not even going to draw one there. I'm going to draw one here, and look at how much smaller these are. And then I'm going to fix all of that by having this one come all the way over to here. Now this is still kind of a big shape, but I think I can live with it for right now, and we'll see if I have an opportunity to fix that or not. All right, so now you'll notice that this area up here, these shapes are pretty much the same size. Down here, these are really large shapes, and I want to kind of break that up by overlapping shapes. So the next one that I have is eyes, and I have rolled a 1, and I can have it be a cyclops, or I can make it 2 eyes, but I think I'm going to do 2 eyes. And so I'm going to come over to this side, and I'm going to actually break up this space even more. And this one I would have fixed because I made a mistake there. And I'm going to put the eyeball here, and I'm going to go ahead and color that in so I don't make a mistake. Now, you don't have to make these black if you don't want to. I mean, it's your drawing, but at any rate, I did that. Now I have another eye, and I get to do any kind of eye I want because I rolled a 6, so I get to choose, and I'm going to actually choose this eye right next to 1. And so it's going to be this sort of teardrop shape, and I'm going to keep this one inside there because these shapes are kind of big. Now, what I want you to notice is the mistake that I made here. Notice that how this shape is really odd. If I were in pencil, and I'm actually just going to go on and do it, I would break that up just by extending this. Okay, now this shape is still kind of big, but I can actually add eyelashes and break that up. Okay, and you can kind of see how I'm thinking about this. There's a lot of problem solving going on, a lot of cognitive activity. And now I'm going to roll for a nose, and I got a 4, which is this sort of beak looking thing, and I have the opportunity to, I don't know, I think I'm going to skip it. This almost looks like a nose to me, and I feel like if I color these shapes right here orange or yellow, that it's going to kind of look like its nose and its mouth. So I'm going to just make an executive decision and not draw a nose. I'm going to let this be the nose right here. All right, now after the nose, which I have skipped, I'm going to add shapes, and I can do this as many times as I want. So I'm going to add, I rolled a 4, so I'm going to add this half moon. But remember, this shape right here is super big, and so I want to break that up. And so I think for this half moon, I'm going to draw it right here, and I'm going to try and do it correctly and break up this space quite a bit. And so now I have this much smaller space. This space, it's a little awkward, but it's still a lot smaller. This one's a little awkward, and then these two shapes. And you can see how I'm starting to break up my spaces. I'm going to roll again for shape. I'm going to stay with shape for a minute. And I got a 3, which is a rectangle. And so for this one, I think I can start down here. I'm going to actually make sure I go here because I don't want to overlap those. And I'm going to put my rectangle here. Now I have created these new shapes plus that new shape. And I'm going to roll again, and this time it's for line, which is the very bottom row. And I got a 1, which is this sort of asterisk. And that's a really good one for me because I'm a little bit in a quandary. So now I'm going to put the center of that asterisk right here. And I'm going to make it a circle because that helps me. And I'm going to have this come out right here and draw that circle so that it attaches to those lines. And then I'm going to do, I have this kind of shape and this shape that I want to break up. So I'm going to actually draw my circle pretty big. And you can kind of see that I'm making decisions based on how I want to break up the spaces in this drawing. And that one wasn't really successful. And then this one, I think I'm going to have it come all the way down here and draw there. And I'm going to have another one come out here and have that go off the paper. Now I've really broken up my paper, and I actually think that that is pretty good. I'm going to do this roll on the bottom one more time, and I got a 1 again. Well, actually, I'm just going to break the rules. I don't like this shape, and I'm not crazy about that shape, but I think I can live with this. This one, not so much. So I'm going to do this squiggly line, and I'm going to connect it as often as I can. So this shape is still a little awkward, but it's better than it was. And I actually feel like I'm going to bring this over here. All right. So now I have my Miro drawn. Now, when you have yours drawn, yours will be in pencil, and you can go through and fix stuff so that you don't have wonky looking things like this or like this. You can erase and maybe perhaps get rid of some of that. But this is a really good start, I think. And so I'm going to start off with that nose because I really feel like this looks a lot like a duck. And so I'm going to go ahead and color this an orange. Now every single shape is going to be a different color. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to use this orange again. It just means that I don't want to make that orange because it is a separate shape. I can choose a warm color. I can even choose a different orange, but I don't want to put two oranges together. And this is a little bit like a puzzle, and there is a lot of decisions that have to be made. There are a lot of decisions that have to be made when you're doing something like this, because you're not always going to. It's not always going to work out exactly the way you want it to. So I'm going to sort of stay with this warm color scheme right here, and sort of try and get this to look a little bit like a duck, because I cheated and I didn't do the nose. And now I feel like I should do a yellow. Oh, I don't know. Maybe an orange. Maybe orange. Right here. And so you can kind of see how this is working out. Every shape is going to get its own color. And if you're using markers, you don't want the strokes to be seen. So like right now, you can kind of see them. You may not be able to see them on screen. But if you have that sort of streak look, you might just go back in a different direction and fill that in until it's nice and solid. I'm using this Bic marker set. And it's about $20. It's kind of expensive, I think. But I buy them all the time because I make art with them. So if you're crafty or if you like to use markers, you might go ahead and get this. This is a really good deal when it comes to like high quality markers. And they will last you through this entire project, and you'll still have them for the next one. But you don't have to use these, obviously. You can use crayons. You can use colored pencils. And what we're shooting for here is we want to make sure that we are thinking not only about what the assignment is, but we also want to make sure that we're thinking about quality. the more solid your coloring is, and the better you stay in the lines, the higher quality this project is going to be. And so when I'm doing this, when you're doing this, you're not going to have these really nice black lines, because we're going to save that for the end. That way, if you do make any mistakes when coloring, if you accidentally go out of lines, you have a better opportunity to fix it. So what you're going to do is draw it in pencil first. You're going to overlap your shapes. You're going to try and make your shapes as consistent in size as possible. And then once you have it done and it looks the way you want it to, you're going to go over those pencil marks. Everything all the lines that divide all your shapes, you're going to go over those in marker. And it'll be a whole new drawing then. So one of the things you can think about, I've had people do this using a color scheme where they only used 3 or 4 colors. Seems like that would be easier, but actually that is much harder, because you don't want to have 2 greens together. I don't want to have this be green, because then it wouldn't be different enough. I can use a green. I don't have to make, I don't have to worry about that, but I don't want to. Okay, I'm going to just go ahead and keep going. That is my dog. I had to do this at home because this is where all of where my easel is, and my office isn't big enough for me to do this. And now my dog is howling because I am not paying attention to him. So I'm really sorry. And I don't know what to do about that. So hopefully he'll quit in a minute. At any rate, you're going to do it in pencil, fix it as much as you can. Then you're going to color in all of your shapes, different colors. And then you're going to go over your lines in black. Now, if you're doing crayons, that'll be pretty easy to do. Color pencils, not so much, because they're pretty waxy. And it might be hard for you to use like a black Sharpie to go over it. It might not actually stick to it. And so in that case, you may have to use your black color pencil and be, like it may be harder. Or it could be that you just decide, if you do it in color pencil, that you don't want the black lines between your shapes, and that's fine too. But you'll have to be super careful. You won't be able to fix anything. This kind of will show you what's going on, and then there's also, I'm going to finish this and I'll have this as an example for you so that you can kind of see what it's going to look like. And then any questions that you have, you should just contact me. Please don't email me over D2L, because I don't generally get those. Or if I do get them, I think it's my email, and I'll try to answer you, and you don't get the answer. So make sure that you email me at my school email. You can call me. And then you can also use the discussion box that I put for questions. You can use that as well. And that's actually better, because you probably aren't the only one who has a question. So that is our Miro project. And I'm giving you kind of a lot of time to work on it, because you have this and your interactive notebook pages and your discussion for this module, and you have some reading to do as well. So there's quite a bit of work to do, and I want to make sure that you do the best work that you can, that it looks the best you can. And then when you get ready to turn it in, you just need to take a picture of it and upload that to the Dropbox that's available for it, okay? So have fun coloring and playing around with shape, line, and color.